patriotic music and songs that inspired freedom fighters in the 1940s and have left an indelible imprint on the cultural life of the Indian nation. We present INA music and songs recorded soon after the end of the Second World War. On 2nd July 1943, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose arrived in Singapore, once a bulwark, now a graveyard of the British Empire. He had come across half the globe after a perilous 90-day submarine voyage. He was greeted with the song, Subhashaji, Subhashaji, wo jaane hind aa gaye, wo naaz jis pe hind ko, wo shaan hind aa gaye, composed by Mumtaz Hussain. This was an early indication of the affection and pride that Indians in Southeast Asia felt for their revered leader. On 4th July 1943, at an enthusiastic representative assembly of Indians in Southeast Asia held at Singapore, Netaji accepted the leadership of the Indian Independence League from Rash Bihari Bose. In ringing tones and elegant Hindustani, he told those who were prepared to follow him that he could offer nothing but hunger, thirst, privation, forced marches and death on the journey towards the Red Fort of Delhi, where they would hold their victory parade. The following day, 5th July 1943, was the proudest day in Netaji's life, as he had the unique privilege and honor of announcing to the whole world that India's Army of Liberation had come into being. On hearing their leader give the call, "Chalo Delhi," Mumtaz Hussain composed the song, "Hum Delhi Delhi Jayenge," and Ram Singh Thakur, conductor of the INA orchestra, set it to music. On 21st October 1943, Netaji proclaimed the formation of a provisional government of Azad Hind, or Free India, in Singapore. He followed it up with a declaration of war on India's colonial masters. On that occasion, Kadam Kadam Badhaye Ja was composed as the marching song of the INA, an inspiring evocation of sacrificial patriotism. It remains a hugely popular song to this day.
कौम पे लुटाए जब कसम लड़ाए जब खुशी के गीत गाए जब ये जिंदगी है कौम की कौम पे लुटाए जब शेर हिंद आगे बढ़ने से फिर भी तू न जब खुदा के दुश्मनों का जो से वतन बनाए जब शेर हिंद आगे बढ़ने से फिर भी तू न जब खुदा के दुश्मनों का जो से वतन बनाए जब जिंदगी है कौम की तो कौम के लुटाए तेरी हिम्मत की रहे खुदा तेरी खुदा रहे काम में तेरे अरे खुदाक में मिलाए तेरी हिम्मत की रहे खुदा तेरी खुदा रहे काम में तेरे अरे खुदाक में मिलाए जा
Netaji's Azad Hind movement had a Bal Sena, an organization of young boys who provided support functions of various kinds to the INA. This song, written for them by Ram Singh Thakur in Gurkhali, is set to a popular Japanese tune.
बालको जातिलाई सुधार हिम्मत गरी अघि बढी बैरीलाई सङ्घार मौका हेरी जागुटाई देशको गरुदार हाम्रो जातिको सुधार नेताजी जस्ताको नाम पनि चला नैको नाम देशको कल्याण बालको जातिलाई सुधार हिम्मत गरी अघि बढी बैरीलाई सङ्घार मौका हेरी लाभुलाई देशको गरुदार हाम्रो जातिको सुधार नेताजी जस्ताको नाम पनि तरा नैको नाम देशको कल्याण नौजवान आगे बढ़ेगा दुश्मनों को मारेगा हिंदुस्तान से हिंदी कौमी झंडा फिर बार जाएगा मेरा ही झंडा ये कुर्बान हम जाएंगे रुकना तेरा काम नहीं एशिया वालों हमारा झंडा नौजवान आगे बढ़ेगा दुश्मनों को मारेगा हिंदुस्तान से हिंदी कौमी झंडा फिरो बार जाएगा मेरा ही झंडा ये कुर्बान हम जाएंगे रुकना तेरा काम नहीं एशिया वालों हमारा झंडा है हिम्मत से।
In early January 1944, the headquarters of the provisional government were
Jai Hind. On behalf of Netaji Research Bureau, it's my privilege to welcome you to the traditional Netaji Birthday Assembly, which has been taking place in this space at Netaji Bhawan for more than 7 decades. Subhash Chandra Bose was prone to forgetting his own birthday. On 25th January 1935, 2 days after his 38th birthday, he wrote from Rome to Emilia Schenkel in Vienna. Dear Miss Schenkel, thank you so much for your kind letters, the envelope and the postcard sent by airmail from Vienna. They were to hand this morning. Towards the end of a letter of medium length, he writes, "Thanks very much for your kind message for my birthday. As a matter of fact, I had forgotten about it. I am so awful, am I not?" 100 years ago, on 23rd January 1926, Subhash Chandra Bose spent a lonely 29th birthday in captivity in the Mandalay jail in Burma. He had been incarcerated there since January 1925, after his arrest in Calcutta in October 1924. Netaji was arrested and imprisoned a total of 11 times between 1921 and 1940. He returned to this city from Burma in May 1927. Two objects he brought back from Burma, a marble statuette of the Buddha and a teak and rattan recliner chair with elephant carvings, are displayed in our Netaji Museum on the second floor of Netaji Bhawan. The facsimile of Netaji's notation in his own hand of the lyrics of Tagore's Amar Shonar Bangla, which he made as a prisoner in Burma, is displayed next to them. Netaji had very neat, indeed rather beautiful handwriting in both Bengali and English. On 23rd January 1926, exactly 100 years ago, Subhash Chandra Bose handwrote two letters to recipients in Calcutta. One, a two-page letter in English to his beloved Mejdada, Sharat Chandra Bose. The other, a three-page letter in Bengali to his beloved Ma. This is not his actual mother, Prabhavati Bose, but Bashanti Devi, Deshabandhu Chittaranjan Das's wife, whom he had adopted as his Ma since 1921. The letter to Bashanti Devi is datelined in English, Mandalay Jail, care of DIG IBCID Bengal, that is Deputy Inspector General, Intelligence Branch, Criminal Investigation Department, Bengal, 13 Elysium Row, Calcutta. The long letter to Bashanti Devi begins and ends in a somewhat melancholy tone. He begins, Sri Charaneshu Ma, Onekdin Jabot, আপনার কোনো খবর পাই নাই। 2-3 দিন পূর্বে মেজদাদার পত্রে আপনার খবর পেলুম। And the long letter ends. আর কি লিখব? কি লিখতে কি লিখেছি জানি না। আজ তবে আসি মা। ইতি আপনার সেবক শ্রী সুভাষ। There is, of course, a context to the melancholia. Deshabandhu C.R. Das had passed away very prematurely 7 months earlier in June 1925 at the age of just 54. Subhash had received the devastating news in Mandalay. Neither of Subhash's two letters, dated 23rd January 1926 from Mandalay jail to Sharat Chandra Bose and Bashanti Devi, makes any reference to the fact that it is the letter writer's birthday. At one point of the longish letter to Sharat Bose, Netaji writes, "We celebrated the Saraswati Puja and met the expenses provisionally from our own pocket. We have, however, asked government to pay the expenses and shall continue to represent the matter." The prison years in Burma badly affected Subhash Chandra Bose's physical health, as did the next phase of incarceration that was to come from 1930 to 1933. But it steeled his resolve to pursue his life's mission, India's freedom. In end 1928, Bose was the principal organizer of the Indian National Congress's annual conference held in Calcutta's Park Circus Maidan. The same year, Netaji, just 31, was one of 8 members of a high-level committee of the Indian National Congress constituted, quote, to determine the principles of the Constitution of India, Free India. The committee's report asserted, among other things, quote, there shall be no state religion for the Commonwealth of India, nor shall the state directly or indirectly endow any religion or give any preference or impose any disability on account of religious belief or religious status. The garlanded photo in Netaji Research Bureau's invitation card for the 129th birth anniversary is from October 1929, taken during a visit to Lahore. The previous month, September 1929, Jotindranath Das, Jotin Das, one of the Congress volunteers Netaji had organized for the Calcutta conference, had died after 62 days on hunger strike in a prison in Lahore. The 24-year-old martyr's body was brought by train to Calcutta, and Subhash Chandra Bose led the massive funeral procession. My father, Dr. Shishir Kumar Bose, who, as you know, is the founder and the builder of Netaji Research Bureau, and who was then aged just 9, has written in his memoirs of witnessing his uncle returning from the cremation to one Woodburn Park, Sharad Bose's house, on the next street, a 2-minute walk away, clutching a small paper packet containing a little bit of Jotin's remains, which he handed over for safekeeping to Shishir's mother, Bibhabati Bose. 2 months later, in December 1929, a month short of his 33rd birthday, Subhash Chandra Bose enunciated his vision of free India in the presidential address to a convention of patriotic youth in Medinipur, a cradle and legendary bastion of resistance to colonialism. He said, পূর্ণ সাম্যবাদের উপর নূতন সমাজকে গড়িয়া তুলিতে হইবে, জাতিভেদের অচল আয়তনকে একেবারে ধূলিসাৎ করিতে হইবে, নারীকে সর্বভাবে মুক্ত করিয়া সমাজে ও রাষ্ট্রে পুরুষের সহিত সমান অধিকার ও দায়িত্ব প্রদান করিতে হইবে, অর্থের বৈষম্য দূর করিতে হইবে এবং বর্ণ ধর্ম নির্বিশেষে প্রত্যেকে কি পুরুষ কি নারী যাহাতে শিক্ষার ও উন্নতির সমান সুযোগ ও সুবিধা পায় তার ব্যবস্থা করিতে হইবে। In imperfect translation, we will have to build our new society on the basis of complete egalitarianism. The deadwood of the caste system will have to be absolutely eradicated. Women will have to be comprehensively liberated, and they will have equal rights and responsibilities with men in society and the state. Economic inequality will have to be removed, and regardless of creed or religion, every person, man and woman, will have equal opportunities for education and advancement. This exceptional clarity of vision defined the rest of his life of struggle for India's freedom. It is, of course, a great tragedy and misfortune that he was not able to lead the rebirth of India as a free nation. In the Mandalay prison notebooks of 1926, Netaji made handwritten notes about the Irish struggle for freedom. Most of Ireland had become a semi-independent free state in 1922, albeit at the cost of losing 6 northern counties to the so-called United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Subhash Chandra Bose's prison notes show a particular interest in the life and poetry of Patrick Pearse, the Irish revolutionary who was one of the main leaders of the Easter Rising in Dublin in 1916. Pearse read the proclamation of the Provisional Government of the Irish Republic outside the General Post Office, or GPO, in Dublin during the 1916 Easter Rising. The opening lines of the proclamation were, "Irishmen and Irish women, in the name of God and of the dead generations from which she receives her old tradition of nationhood, Ireland, through us, summons her children to her flag and strikes for her freedom." On the intervening night of 21st October 1943, Netaji wrote the text of the proclamation of the Provisional Government of Free India, or Arzi Hukumat-e-Azad Hind, its name in Hindustani, while drinking many cups of black coffee and chain-smoking cigarettes in his bungalow located in 61 Mayor Road, Singapore. S.A. Iyer typed up the handwritten text as it was composed. As he worked, Netaji jokingly told his comrades to remember that all 7 signatories of the 1916 Irish Proclamation had been swiftly executed by the British. Indeed, they were, along with 9 other captured leaders of the Easter Rising, 16 in all. Patrick Pearse was shot by firing squad, as was his brother, Willie Pearse. One signatory, James Connolly, was unable to stand for the firing squad as he was badly wounded from the fighting, and so was executed sitting in a chair. The final lines of the proclamation of the Azad Hind government, proclaimed by Netaji in Singapore on 21st October 1943, which is just behind me, read, "In the name of God, in the name of bygone generations who have welded the Indian people into one nation, and in the name of the dead heroes who have bequeathed to us a tradition of heroism and self-sacrifice, we call upon the Indian people to rally around our banner and strike for India's freedom." 80 years after his mortal end, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose is an immortal icon of resistance to injustice and oppression. When Nelson Mandela visited this city in October 1990, just 8 months after his release from 27 years of incarceration since 1963, he said, and I quote, "Your heroes of those days became our heroes." Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was amongst the great persons of the world whom we, black students, regarded as being as much our leader as yours. Indeed, Mandela continued, "Netaji united all militant youth of the colonially oppressed world. We followed with pride his great contributions." Unquote. Some years ago, not too long ago, the Reverend Jesse Jackson of the United States visited Netaji Bhawan. He wrote in Netaji Research Bureau's visitor's book, in capital letters, a simple inscription: "Gandhi plus Bose is equal to liberation. Gandhi plus Bose is equal to liberation." When we met in this Netaji Pavilion 1 year ago, on 23rd January 2025, it was in the shadow of a genocide that had been ongoing for 15 months at the time, perpetrated by the State of Israel on the Palestinian nation. As we all know, the genocide took on even more appalling dimensions during 2025, including deliberately inflicted famine conditions on the people of the Gaza Strip. We in Bengal should know and remember what it is like to endure famine inflicted by a brutal colonial oppressor. At least 4 million people died of starvation and disease in the Bengal famine of 1943-44, and it is a disgrace that there is no public memorial to the famine victims in this city. The Palestinian people have a motto, the Arabic word sumud, sumud, which means steadfastness, perseverance, and resilience in the face of adversity, including extreme adversity. That is precisely the spirit Netaji expressed on 15th August 1945. His words are over there, but may be obscured by this large screen over here. On 15th August 1945, Netaji said, "Never for a moment falter in your faith in India's destiny. There is no power on earth that can keep India enslaved. India shall be free, and before long." While the footprint of Netaji's life of struggle is global, its impact was certainly the greatest in Asia, ravaged by not just British imperialism, but French, Dutch, and American imperialisms. Netaji's stature in Asia is similar to that of the Venezuelan leader Simón Bolívar, the liberator of the Americas in the early 19th century. When Netaji arrived in Singapore on July 2nd, 1943, he was greeted not just as a beacon of liberation of the Indian subcontinent, but as a symbol of Asian resistance, resurgence, and renaissance. You all know the famous song, Shubhashaji, wo jaane hind aage, hai naaz jis pe hind ko, wo shaane hind aage. And the lyrics go on, Khushi ka daur aa gaya, wo nishat ban ke chha gaya, wo Asia ka aftab, ab Asia mein aa gaya. Asia ka aftab, ab Asia mein aa gaya. The sun of Asia, in the sense of sun and moon, the sun of Asia has arrived in Asia. On that note, I would like to invite Dr. Nicole CuUnjieng Aboitiz, scholar, historian, author of the book Asian Place, Filipino Nation, who has joined us today from Manila to address the Assembly on Asianism, a view from Southeast Asia. Netaji Zindabad, Inqilab Zindabad, Azad Hind Zindabad.
Good morning. I'm so thankful to Sugata Bose and to Sumatra Bose for their invitation to speak to you all here today at the Netaji Research Bureau on the occasion of Subhash Chandra Bose's birthday. I am sorry to disappoint you that my presentation today will be a little bit more specific than the published title, but I think that as a contemporary and corollary of Subhash Chandra Bose, that there are many points of comparison between our wartime president, Jose Laurel, and your Netaji that I would love to learn about from you. I bring to my discussion today an echo of Sugata Bose's work, which reminds us that, quote, just as Indian soldiers were sent outside the colonial frontiers of India to extend and defend Britain's imperial frontiers, the anti-colonial movement also drew from peoples beyond India's colonial frontiers. This, he argues, is a powerful historical theme whose importance has not been grasped by political theorists and historians obsessed with the telos of territorial nationalism. Indeed, Subhash Chandra Bose's Southeast Asian phase between 1943 to 1945, amid the turmoil of World War II, was the most climactic stage in his political life. And it was during this time that he met with the man I'll be talking to you about today, Philippine wartime President Jose P. Laurel. My first book, Asian Place, Filipino Nation, shares with Bose's 100 Horizons the argument that regional loyalties were not in any way antithetical to anti-colonial nationalism, but indeed nourished one another, and in the case of Southeast Asian thinkers and actors that I study, were deemed equally necessary and existentially intertwined due to the racial underpinning to the global colonialism that they were fighting. The racial reality to colonialism mobilized, in turn, not only Pan-Asianism, but also social Darwinism as emergent nation-state strategies to combating colonialism, against which narrower mobilizations of territorial nationalism had no argument. My talk today does not have time to delve into all of these themes that Indian and Philippine histories hold in common, but I do want to begin a discussion that will hopefully point to other specific shared points of comparison, which I hope you will teach me all about as well, linking Jose Laurel and Subhash Chandra Bose's thought. This talk analyzes Philippine wartime President Jose Laurel's philosophical negotiations with empire and reconstructs his embedded positions on Asia, nation and race, universalism and civilization, and imperialism and Pan-Asianism, albeit briefly. What emerges in Laurel's thought are cultures of nation and universe tied deeply to the legacies of empire, both in the Philippines and in Asia more generally. The theoretical moves found within the development of Pan-Asianism mirrored those found within Laurel's thought, in that the premise of an anti-Western, anti-imperial critique formed the basis for building a conception of a shared identity that sought to enact a broader understanding of universal world order. But first, a brief bit of background. Jose Laurel's family had been embroiled in the Philippine Revolution against both Spain and the United States. Jose was the son of Sotero Laurel Sr., who was an official in President Emilio Aguinaldo's revolutionary government and a signatory to the 1899 Malolos Constitution. Before the Second World War, Jose received a Doctor of Civil Laws degree from Yale University and served in the U.S. Philippine Commonwealth as a senator and justice. Yet Jose sent one of his sons to study at the Imperial Military Academy in Tokyo. And Jose received an honorary doctorate from Tokyo University, publicly praised certain Japanese institutions, and maintained close relationships with Japanese officials, even serving as a pre-war lobbyist for business interests in Japan. He was a strong critic of U.S. rule in the Philippines, even as he served in the Commonwealth government. Laurel's thinking prior to the Japanese occupation indicated that he was dubious about the influence of American materialism, educational theory, and individualism, all of which had permeated Philippine culture prior to the war, and that he saw that the Japanese nationalist, centralized, even authoritarian model of success was a crucial counterweight to Anglo-American political theory for Filipinos. The Japanese forces invaded the Philippines on the 8th of December 1941 as part of their confrontation with the US and in pursuit of widening Japan's Greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere from East Asia to Southeast Asia. The Japanese military administration established the Philippine Executive Commission, and after holding a series of posts in the transitory government, Laurel became the president of the Second Republic of the Philippines when Japan granted Philippine independence on October 14, 1943. I will now turn to reconstructing the contours of the ideas that Laurel sought to apply during his wartime presidency. Laurel's vision of the body as the site of the nation led him to seek as president a program of racial improvement consistent with the eugenics of the period. Although he lamented that, quote, over heredity we have no control, except insofar as we may prohibit the marriage of diseased individuals or prescribe the sterilization of imbeciles and lunatics, he asserted that we can and we should shape the forces of our environment and education so that the propagation of health and intelligence may outrun the reproduction of disease and ignorance. Very much consistent with the period. The body more generally figured in Laurel's racial improvement program, and he supported a well-balanced diet for adults, clean amusement, and wholesome sport and recreation for both young and other measures designed to conserve the health of the populace. In addition, in anticipation of the 1943 Constitution, of the preparatory commission of which Laurel was president, he produced a research and planning report that explicitly linked nation and race as it conceptualized the appropriate cultural and educational program to cohere the country as a nation. For this, the report stated that what should serve as a guide were not only the mandates of the Constitution, but, quote, the best expressions of the racial will. The report reflects the assumption that what is, quote, native to a people is most natural and best suited to them, and emphasized native practice as the best, most natural method to use in imparting all skills and attributes that the educational program desired to. This program would thus be grounded in the primacy of geographical place, which was presented as the basis for evolution, both past and present. This was hardly a universalized conception of man. This vision of race, the embodied unit of the nation, was deeply particular to the native place and the regional Orient. Interestingly, however, it drew a clear limit to the harnessing of place and native culture. In describing the rural settlement farm schools, which catered to the non-Christian tribes in the Philippines, the report stated that the elementary farm school should make an emphasis on farm work and help to feed their children in settled agricultural units to give them the benefits of civilization. For the prime task of the settlement farm school was to assist the non-Christian nomadic Filipinos to settle down, to produce, and to live a well-ordered community life. Clearly here, we see that within the setting that shaped the supposed racial will, there was an asserted evolutionary hierarchy that favored the lowland Christian societal arrangement over the nomadic non-Christian one. In his thought, Laurel defined the Orient not merely negatively as oppressed by Western imperialism, but also positively as the cradle of civilization. For Laurel, the Orient and the Occident emerged as real historical entities in their dialectical history with each other and with a third entity, which was what he imagined as universal civilization. In his thinking, as in his Philippine revolutionary predecessors half a century prior, there was something like universal civilization, which was propagated at different times by different cultures, indifferent to whether it landed east or west, just as it had done historically, with at one time China, say, holding universal civilization before it passed to America, for example. Despite the real existence in Laurel's thinking of a differentiated East and West, Laurel's understanding of civilization served to flatten the historical bases upon which something like European chauvinism could emerge, and it opened a premise from which to assert his bedrock universalism. The task here, according to Laurel, was for the Orient not only to awaken and reclaim its inherited bond to the civilization that the West had claimed for itself, but also to unmask the corruption of world religion as represented in Western imperialism, which universal civilization had been made to serve and legitimize in the hands of the Occident. In a 1927 speech, he declared that, quote, the Orient should unmask Western imperialism's moral corruption by excessive pursuit of material gain and the establishment of structures of racial and cultural inequality in violation of the essential equality of men under law, natural law, end quote. Due to his personal understanding of natural law, Laurel interpreted this task as a divinely sanctioned mission for the Orient. He asserted, quote, God in his infinite wisdom will not abandon Japan and will not abandon the peoples of Greater East Asia, end quote. Similarly, in his November 22, 1943 address in Manila to Subhash Chandra Bose, president of the provincial government of Free India, Laurel referred to Bose as, quote, leader of 350 million Indians in their effort, which is legitimate and divine, to free themselves from British rule, end quote. God appeared undifferentiated in Laurel's view of natural law, though his understanding of universal civilization, which allowed for Laurel's statement to Bose, made from a member of one world religion to that of another, Laurel nevertheless declared that, quote, there is one eternal God, creator and sustainer of the universe, and that until the unity of religion is achieved, the church and state must remain completely apart and separate, end quote. While he stated that, quote, this separation implies equality of all religions, he nevertheless envisioned this separation as necessary only due to the particular historical moment during which, quote, the millennium of religious unions is not yet. So here we see that even within his supposed universalism and equality lay a bedrock particularism and inequality, by which he cannot deny his own belief in his one eternal God above that of others. Laurel's universalism conflicted with his particularism, and his shifts between the two revealed the ways in which a contingent, particularist, historically constructed understanding was deeply embedded in his universalist vision, and actually worked to produce that universalism. In that 1927 speech, he affirmed that, quote, "At the behest of the Christian religion, Western nations have invaded the East, conquered its territories, ruled its people against their will, and have forced upon every weak people in the Orient the administration of their own laws, and usurped local sovereignty on the pretext of spreading Christian civilization. Yet their benighted Christianity has led them at the same time to adopt stringent laws of exclusion against the Orientals in defense of every sovereignty which they have trampled upon," end quote. Laurel thus imagined a universalist divine foundation to world religion and to human civilization, while also positing intractable differences between the systems of law emanating from the West and the East, such that the enforcement of one system over the other was unjust and unnatural, though they might stem in part from the same sources. This intractability perhaps resulted from what he interpreted to be the historical perversion of civilization and religion in the hands of the West, which produced exclusionary laws and a benighted version of Christianity. Thus, this dialectical history and the contingent historical products that resulted from it, in Laurel's thought, necessarily revealed to the Orient its connection to the Occident, and which inextricably returned the Orient to the Occident in its divine mission of unmasking the particularist corruption to which the Occident had subjected the originally Eastern universalist civilization. Further, in Laurel's thought, the East was able to differentiate which particular historical products supposedly adhered acceptably to human civilization's universal principles, like the Grand Roman Empire, from those that did not, like modern Western imperialism. This interpretation privileges the East's current judgment of the West's caretaking of purported human civilization in a way that either delegitimized the West's ability to correctly or morally assess the validity of its goal, or that accused the West of failing to adhere to the putatively operational desirable objectives of this universal order. Either scenario embedded a deep particularism into Laurel's universalism while naturalizing that particularism. In his discussion of the Philippine nation, Laurel similarly employed his universalism to naturalize, depoliticize, and ennoble his nationalist agenda, nationalist existence, and the distinctiveness of the Filipino national identity. In his address to the consecration of the head-elect of the Evangelical Church in 1944, he intoned, quote, "We should be the better Christian because we are good and true Filipinos proud of our racial heritage. I do not see how we can contribute to a world order based on peace and justice unless we be true Filipinos first, loyal to those traditions by which God himself in his infinite wisdom has seen fit to mold us, distinct from any other people on earth," end quote. In his view, the Filipino was not only one equal out of all of God's creations, but also a particular manifestation, a distinct people molded unlike any other. One should also note that Laurel often elided the Republica Cristiana and the universal world. In his 1927 speech in praise of Woodrow Wilson as the Filipino people's benefactor, he described the ways in which Wilson's, quote, "love of humanity was greater than his love of country, for he held humanity more sacred than nationality. For this reason, Wilson was a citizen of the Republica Cristiana, of the world." These particularisms did not negate the existence in Laurel's thought of a purportedly universal human heritage held in common among all, nor of its theoretical possibility, even amid the pitted divisions and geopolitical strife of Laurel's time. As it did for most Pan-Asianists, since the late 19th century, the theory of natural selection crucially informed Laurel's racialized understanding of the world order and supported his Pan-Asianism. In a 1959 pamphlet, Opportunism and the Darwinian Aspect of Current Political Struggles, Laurel wrote, quote, "Natural selection and the law of the survival of the fittest, as elaborated by Darwin, have no ethical principles, but merely concern themselves with the preservation of the species." In this, he perceived a higher suggestive lesson, quote, "Since the Philippines is still a young and weak state, why not continue propping ourselves up for a while longer with supports from stronger friends? Yet in this position, he still did not seem to condone an alliance with the West, which he did not believe shared the Philippines' interests, thus making Pan-Asian solidarity the only natural conclusion left for Laurel. Laurel believed that Asiatic solidarity was a repudiation of imperialism itself, which he defined as Western. He asserted in his December 1927 speech that the fundamental problem for the Orientals was the need to acquire political and economic freedom so that they and their posterity will be able to emerge from the present form of political and economic bondage imposed upon them by the so-called superior people. He imagined Pan-Asian solidarity to be a triumph over Western imperialism, which guarded against a united and compact Orient, in his words. Laurel defined Western imperialism through its materialism, an intention to dominate weaker peoples, particularly those of the Orient, who were neither of their race nor culture. This definition allowed Laurel, once president, to rationalize Japanese empire as something distinct from Western imperialism. The retreat from Western imperialism figured for Laurel as a retreat from the infection of Western immorality and materialism. To Laurel, the Japanese were of the Orient and limited their empire to its putative cultural territorial space and sought to unite Asians and give them freedom to develop and maintain their own cultures. His championing of Pan-Asianism and support for Japan's Greater East Asian Co-Prosperity Sphere rested publicly on the space for integral autonomous cultural sovereign units within it. This imperial vision represented for Laurel a potentially new form of empire based on solidarity and autonomy that aimed at a more inclusive universal understanding of prosperity. Quote, "Just as the East was the cradle of civilization, so the East may again be the foundation of a new code of international relations based on moral justice and aimed at the common happiness and prosperity of all members," end quote. Moral codes and older notions of a moral universe and moral government infused this new diplomacy with rhetoric that were called classical Confucian discourse. Quote, "Diplomacy is wisdom, diplomacy is trenchant, diplomacy is cooperation, diplomacy is mutual understanding," end quote. Crucial in this vision for diplomacy, however, is a notion of belonging and commonality that would make possible such mutuality. Quote, "In the case of the Philippines, which is returning to the Oriental fold to which she, by nature, by traditions, by culture, and by geographical propinquity belongs, these synonyms of diplomacy should be developed and followed," end quote. Here one sees the particular political vision that Pan-Asianism sincerely held for Laurel, and that animated his geopolitical position, both as a Filipino thinker and president. And as you can see, there's a mixed afterlife to Laurel's thoughts, much more so, I think, than your Netaji. But given the forces that they were combating at the time and the similar contemporary struggles that they faced, we can see their attempts to wrestle with the various strategies, attractions, fascinations, and ideologies of the time.
Sugata Bose is handing over a rare photograph of Netaji Bhawan of Burma and Jose Laurel of the Philippines, together in 1943. It's really a priceless image. Thank you very much, Nicole, for that enlightening talk on anti-colonial Asian interconnections. Can I now invite Ishikawa Yoshihisa, the Consul General of Japan in Kolkata and a good friend of Netaji Research Bureau, to briefly address the Netaji Birthday Assembly. Consul General Ishikawa.
Dr. Nicole CuUnjieng Aboitiz, Professor Sugata Bose, Professor Samantha Bose, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am Yoshihisa Ishikawa, Consul General of Japan in Kolkata. Last year, April, when I got transferred from to Kolkata from Davao, Philippines, at that time, honestly speaking, I didn't know much about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. However, the more I learned about Netaji, the more I understood and began to respect him very much, because I believe he's a patriot and a real Indian national hero and real good friend of my country, Japan. When we learn about world international relations, my belief is we should study geopolitics. Japan is a small island country very far from Asian continent, and we don't have any natural resources. We have only human resources. And regarding energy, food, Japan totally depends on foreign countries. Japan is surrounded by China, Russia, North Korea, who has nuclear weapons. Sea lanes from Africa, Middle East, India, Malacca Strait, South China Sea, Taiwan to Japan is definitely Japan's lifeline. India is a very important country for Japan. India is most populated country in the world, biggest democracy in the world, was third or fourth biggest economy, already bigger than in Japan, of the huge market size of having potential, immense potential of manufacturing hub of the world. You have technology, you have young and talented human resources. India will also be benefited from Japan in many fields. Japan's experience, economy, trade, investment, technology, education, human exchanges. So Japan, India can be a very good win-win relations. I believe strong India is Japan's interest, and strong Japan is also India's interest. So let's try very hard to promote these bilateral relations. I have been working in a diplomatic service for almost 40 years. Most of the times I have been working for Japan-Philippines relations and Japan-US relations. For Japan, for me, not me, but ordinary Japanese paid attention to the relationship, Japan's relationship with US, China, Korea, Russia, Southeast Asian countries. It means neighboring countries, but not India. Because India was far away land and beyond our imagination. Just 10 years ago, 2016, the then Prime Minister Shinzo Abe announced free and open Indo-Pacific, FOIP. And he declared Japan would try her best to contribute to the peace, stability, and development of this region. I think this is very good, initiative and epoch-making and quite timely. And, long time ago, one great man already realized the importance of promoting Japan-India relations. That was Netaji. I was very much surprised and very much impressed with his foresight and vision. It's incredible. Netaji approached Japanese government more than 80 years ago. He asked Japan's support for India's freedom and independence movement. He attended the Greater East Asia Conference in Tokyo in 1943 with other Asian leaders, including Philippine President Jose P. Laurel. And Netaji fought against the British together with Japanese army in Impal, Manipur. Many Indian historians already point out Netaji's fight against the British helped in intensifying India's freedom movement further. So please don't misunderstand. I have no intention to justify Japan's aggression in 1940s. I just want to tell you that Japan and India have worked in the past for the freedom and independence of India. And also, these two nations should work further now for the peace and stability and prosperity of two countries and also for the entire world. I sincerely hope a young generation of India and Japan will learn from Netaji's legacy. Finally, lastly, I would like to take this opportunity to express my heartfelt appreciation and deep respect for Netaji at this special 129th birthday assembly here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Consul General. Certainly, the Indo-Japanese relationship is today more important than ever before, and Subhash Chandra Bose remains a key reference point for the contemporary relationship. We remember with affection and sadness, mixed with sadness, the late Prime Minister Abe Shinzo of Japan, who has visited us here in Netaji Bhawan. We remember the courtesy and unconditional support that was extended to Netaji by the wartime Japanese leadership, above all Prime Minister General Tojo Hideki. And we remember with a mixture of grief and pride, great pride, intense pride, how the blood of Japanese and Indian soldiers mingled in the battlefields of Manipur and Nagaland in the final war of Indian independence. May the Japan-India relationship thrive and prosper in the future. We now have a quick release of two items. One is a new edition which Netaji Research Bureau has prepared in collaboration with our friends at Ananda Publishers of Subhash Chandra Bose's classic title, Taruner Swapna, or Dreams of Youth. It contains his most important speeches, essays, and letters between 1921 and 1929. The original Taruner Swapna was published almost 100 years ago in 1928, and the second edition was published in 1930. This fresh edition is particularly intended for Bengal's youth at a time when they need a dose of healthy idealism, some guidance about how to be honest and dedicated to the country, and it contains facsimiles of many of his letters and articles written in his own hand. So this is being ceremonially released today, and I hope many of you will pick up this new edition of Taruner Swapna from our bookshop, which is in the front of the house where the driveway begins. Every 23rd January, we release the birth anniversary number of Netaji Research Bureau's own journal, The Oracle, which was started by, of course, Dr. Sugata Bose in 1979. And for many years, under his editorship, it was a quarterly. And it is in itself valuable, priceless, in fact, repository of information and sources on the freedom struggle and on Netaji's life in particular. In more recent years, it's been published as an annual magazine. It's always released on Netaji's birth anniversary, every 23rd January. So today we are observing the same ritual. This January 2026 edition of The Oracle, which we are about to release, contains facsimiles of, I think, all or most of the Netaji's prison notebooks and letters that you are about to hear about from Professor Sugata Bose. And it also contains a remarkable Sharat Chandra Bose centenary oration delivered here in September 1989 by the British socialist Tony Benn. I reread, Tony Benn's Sharat Chandra Bose centenary oration after a long time and was impressed by how relevant it is to the very troubled and turbulent times that we live in. So let's release The Oracle 2026. Can I now invite Professor Sugata Bose, Chairperson of Netaji Research Bureau, to deliver his illustrated lecture on Subhash Chandra Bose's Mandalay prison letters and notebooks.
Jai Hind. 100 years ago, Subhash Chandra Bose was a prisoner in Mandalay. Having been arrested in October 1924, he had spent some time in Alipur Central Jail and Beharampur Jail. In January of 1925, he was transported across the Bay of Bengal to Burma to be lodged in Mandalay prison, which he described in a letter to his friend Dilip Kumar Roy as a place of pilgrimage. By January 1926, Subhash had already spent a year on this pilgrimage, enduring the hardships of prison life with a combination of stoicism and humor, as well as deep study of a variety of subjects. On January 23rd, 1926, he wrote 2 letters, one in Bengali to Bashanti Devi and the second in English to Sharath Chandra Bose. As Shumantra noted, neither mentioned the fact that it happened to be his 29th birthday. He wrote to the widow of his political guru, Deshabandhu Chittaranjan Das, Asha kori আপনার সকল শোক ও বিপদের মধ্যে আপনি ভুলবেন না বাংলার কত সন্তান আপনাকে মা বলে থাকে। হয়তো একথা মনে পড়লে আপনি কিছু সান্ত্বনা পেতে পারেন। তারা নিঃস্ব ও নিঃসহায় হলেও আপনার বিপদকে তারা নিজেদের বিপদ বলে মনে করে নিয়েছে। I hope you will not forget, even in the midst of all your misfortune and grief, that innumerable sons of Bengal have accepted you as their mother. In spite of being poor and helpless, they have made your misfortune their own. And he concluded, Ar ki likhibo, ki likhite, ki likhechi janina, iti apnar shebok, Shubhash. There you see the signature, Shubhash. And this was the envelope in which the letter had come. From his brother, he asked for a pair of spectacles and 2 volumes of Mayer's experimental psychology. We celebrated Saraswati Puja, he wrote. Obviously, Saraswati Puja was early that year, even earlier than this year. We celebrated Saraswati Puja, he wrote, and met the expenses provisionally from our own pocket. In sending him Nietzsche's works, the book company had, in error, dispatched 2 copies of the same volume. In a postscript, he wanted also Dr. Rivers's Instinct and the Unconscious. In response to a request from Hemendranath Dasgupta, Shubhash wrote a lengthy prison essay on the Deshabandhu in February 1926 and completed it on March 3rd. It contains insights into the fundamentals of his own political beliefs. It's a 26-page essay. On page 10, he wrote, ভারতের হিন্দু জননায়কদের মধ্যে দেশবন্ধুর মতো ইসলামের এত বড় বন্ধু আর কেহ ছিলেন বলিয়া আমার মনে হয় না। তিনি হিন্দু ধর্মকে এত ভালোবাসিতেন যে তার জন্য প্রাণ দিতে প্রস্তুত ছিলেন, অথচ তার মনের মধ্যে গোঁড়ামি আদৌ ছিল না। এই জন্য তিনি ইসলামকে ভালোবাসিতে পারিতেন। I do not think that among the Hindu leaders of India, Islam had a greater friend than in the Deshabandhu. Hinduism was extremely dear to his heart. He could even lay down his life for his religion. But at the same time, he was absolutely free from dogmatism of any kind. That explains how it was possible for him to love Islam. It was this spirit of broad-minded generosity in the matter of India's religious diversity that Shubhash sought to emulate in his politics. This was not secularism in the sense of a separation between religion and politics, but a politics based on respect and reconciliation of religious differences. That Swaraj in India meant primarily the uplift of the masses and not the protection of the interest of the upper classes, he emphasized, was a matter of conviction with the Deshabandhu. Subhash Chandra Bose, too, was deeply committed to this ideal. To the large question whether culture was one or diverse, his answer was that it was both one and many. The Deshabandhu, he pointed out, was first and foremost a friend of Bengal. He loved Bengal with all his life, but that did not make him forget India as a whole. The pursuit of Nyaya, a philosophical system developed in the district of Nodia in Bengal during the early modern period, had shaped the logical and argumentative strand within Bengal's intellectual tradition. It was a talent that made C.R. Das a great barrister in the modern era, as it did Sugata Bose, but he would have been a famous logician of the Nabodip school had he been born a few centuries earlier. Nodia was not just the home of rational logic, but effervescent devotion. C.R. Das thought it was a matter of pride rather than embarrassment that Bengalis were susceptible to emotions. The fulfillment of the Deshabandhu's nationalism, Subhash wrote with admiration, was in international amity. But he did not try to develop a love of the world by doing away with love for his own land. Yet his nationalism did not lead him to exclusive egocentricity. C.R. Das's unfulfilled dreams and hopes were, in Subhash's view, his best legacy. The essay was written while Subhash and half a dozen of his fellow prisoners were on a 15-day hunger strike from February 18th onwards. The end of the hunger strike on March 4th, 1926, returned life to quote-unquote normal for the prisoners, but with some guarantee of better treatment. In a letter to Sugata on March 17, 1926, he suggested that extra lessons in music and drawing should be arranged for the children. Regarding music, you may consult Dilip, his friend Dilip Kumar Roy, as to how best children could be given elementary lessons. On the Ides of March, a storm, this time an act of nature, broke over Mandalay jail. As Subhash described it in this letter to Sugata, the dust, like a moving canopy, completely shrouded us. Papers began to fly, lanterns were smitten down, and sundry articles began to take wings. But the wrath of heaven did not last long, and the twice blessed drops of mercy soon began to fall from above. Philosophers say that God's mercy shines even in darkness. So, to complete the harmony of the situation, the electric current conveniently failed, and we were enveloped in what Milton would describe as Cimmerian darkness. The lurid flashes of lightning served only to make the darkness visible. I'm again using a Miltonic expression, for is not saintly Milton as effective in his descriptions of darkness as Shakespeare is sweet in his descriptions of fairy moonlight? And to reveal to the more devoted the terrible beauty of the smile of Kali, the queen of the dark. Chinmayo mukhamandale shobhe attrahashi. Dry sheets and blankets were obtained from the chief jailer, from his own surplus store, before the prisoners gave themselves up to the lock-up man around 11 p.m. for the night. I must stop here, Subhash concluded, as I may be getting a touch of poetic affectation. Sugata by now was less impressed by his younger brother's poetry and philosophy, and more concerned about his rapidly deteriorating health. He noted with alarm that Subhash had altogether lost about 40 pounds of weight in jail. His moral courage could not endlessly compensate for his physical infirmities that had been aggravated by the resort to the hunger strike. Seeing no legal option to secure the release of his brother, Sugata now began to explore a political route to his emancipation. New elections to the Bengal Legislative Council were due late in 1926. Sugata began to mull the possibility of deploying the Sinn Féin tactic of nominating political prisoners for election based on the principle, vote him in to get him out. At first, Subhash rejected the suggestion to stand for election, as he was getting disgusted with members of the councils who were not doing any good work for the country. He thought that the time had come for the pendulum to swing back in the old Gandhian anti-council direction. Sharad got him to realize, however, that there was good reason behind his advice. Subhash agreed to be put up in the North Calcutta constituency against Jyotindranath Basu, a stalwart of the Liberal Party, who had defeated the Swarajist candidate in 1923. God willing, we shall give him a damned hollow defeat, wrote Sharad, who was confident of his younger brother's prospects. Subhash could not even release his manifesto on grounds that political prisoners were not permitted to issue appeals to the public. That manifesto was published for the first time in Taruner Swapna, and you can read it in this book. Sharad managed Subhash's election campaign as well as his own from the university constituency throughout the autumn of 1926 with consummate skill. Both were rewarded in the winter with thumping victories. The supporters of the Bose brothers celebrated with fireworks, and Shishir Kumar Bose has written in his memoirs how Subhash Chandra's joy, victory to Subhash Chandra, in glittering Bengali letters illuminated the Calcutta sky. The colonial authorities in India, however, proved more obdurate than their counterparts in Ireland. Winning the vote was not sufficient to get Subhash out of jail. Subhash chose to be philosophical about his continued imprisonment. The purpose for which Providence sent me here still remains unfulfilled, he wrote to Bashanti Devi on December 20th, 1926, from Rangoon Central Jail, and in a continuation of the same letter from Mandalay Jail on December 30th, 1926. My apprenticeship in prison is yet incomplete. যে উদ্দেশ্যে ভগবান আমাকে এখানে পাঠিয়েছেন তা এখনো সফল হয় নাই এবং আমার কারাবাসকালীন শিক্ষা এখনো অসম্পূর্ণ রয়েছে. Since he did not accept sannyas, the asceticism of a world renouncer, memories of the outside world did cause him sorrow. সন্ন্যাস মানি না, তাই দুঃখকে অস্বীকার করবার আমার অধিকার নাই. But he was prepared to spend his entire life in prison if that were necessary for the good of his motherland. আপনার ভাষায় একদিন সফলতার গৌরবে জীবন গৌরবান্বিত হইবেই. আপনার সান্ত্বনা মাখা অমূল্য কথাগুলি আমাদের অন্তরের বাণী ও সর্বাবস্থায় আমাদের পরম অবলম্বন স্বরূপ. আমার শুধু আরও একটু মনে হয়, সারা জীবন কাটাতে হলেও আমাদের জীবন ব্যর্থ হবে না, কারণ জীবনের মাপকাঠি তো অন্তরের বিকাশ, বাহিরের ক্রিয়াকলাপ নয়. In Mandalay, Subhash kept a ganer khata, an exercise book, in which he transcribed 17 of his favorite songs. In 1925, Subhash had written a letter to Sharat Chandra Chattopadhyay, saying that the novelist had been the only one to have penned a truly insightful tribute to the Deshabandhu. Sharat Chandra Chattopadhyay significantly wrote and published his novel, Pother Dabi, about a Bengali freedom fighter in Bengal during Subhash Chandra Bose's Mandalay years. এখানে না এলে হয়তো বুঝতুম না, Subhash wrote to the master of fiction, সোনার বাংলাকে কত ভালোবাসি. আমার সময়ে সময়ে মনে হয় বোধহয় রবিবাবু কারারুদ্ধ অবস্থা কল্পনা করে লিখেছিলেন, সোনার বাংলা আমি তোমায় ভালোবাসি। This song, which you see, along with others by Rabindranath, Vijendralal Roy, and various devotional and folk poets, figured prominently in the Ganer Khata. Among Tagore's songs was Majhe Majhe Tobo Dekha Pai, D.L. Roy's E Jibone Purilo Na Shad Bhalobashi, and Vidyavati's Kaha Jibano Dhano Brindavano Prano Kaha Meri Hridaya Ki Raja. From his prison notebooks, we find that Subhash undertook a careful study of Burmese culture, ancient Indian history, and Bengali literature through the medieval, early modern, and modern periods. He even believed that he could supply Rakhaldas Banerjee with missing links in the history of early and medieval Bengal from his study of the Burmese records. He noted admiringly that Burmese women were more powerful than women in any European country. A revival of ancient and medieval Bengali culture, he believed, could serve as a foundation of national reconstruction. He believed, as you see in these notes, that prior to the advent of British rule, Bengali literature was not the exclusive domain of upper caste Hindus. প্রাক-ব্রিটিশ বাংলা সাহিত্য পাঠ করিলে দেখিতে পাওয়া যায় যে যাহারা বাংলা সাহিত্যের পুষ্টি নানা দিক হইতে সাধন করিয়াছিলেন, তাহারা সকলে উচ্চবর্ণের লোক ছিলেন না। তথাকথিত নিম্ন শ্রেণীর অনেক লোক সাহিত্যের শ্রীবৃদ্ধি করিয়াছিলেন। ইহাতে প্রমাণ হয় যে সেই যুগে সাহিত্যের সহিত সমাজের নারীর যোগ ছিল। Subhash read voraciously and filled his prison notebooks with copious notes and analyses of the books of which he sought an incessant supply from family and friends. His markings on the multiple volumes of Friedrich Nietzsche's collected works showed that his interest in philosophy was still alive. He read Bertrand Russell's works on industrial civilization and free thought. The great Russian novelists Turgenev and Dostoevsky figured on his reading list of European literature. The broad range of subjects he studied included European history, histories of empires and revolutions, social anthropology, political memoirs, comparative religion, psychology, criminology, exercise and aesthetics, and the color line in human relations. He became something of an authority in Irish history and literature. He recorded in a marginal note that more human beings perished in Ireland during the 1840s famine than had fallen by the sword in any war England had ever waged. He transcribed Irish poems that touched him, such as P.H. Pearce's Renunciation, The Rebel and the Wayfarer, and Dora Sigerson's The Dead Soldier. Pearce had been a leader of the Easter Rising and was executed by the British on May 3rd, 1916. Pearce's lines about the rebel who came of the seed of the people that sorrow must have seemed especially poignant to Subhash. And here, as I was listening to Nicole speak on universalism, there was Christian ethics that Subhash Chandra Bose was talking about in these notes. I say to my people that they are holy, that they are august despite their chains, that they are greater than those that hold them and stronger and purer, that they have but need of courage and to call on the name of their God. God the unforgetting, the dear God that loves the peoples for whom he died naked, suffering shame. The poems about freedom, Subhash noted, cannot be accused of being sentimental. They are exultant, high-voiced, passionate, like the improvisations of a bard. Pearce, that is Patrick Pearce, he writes, believed that the full measure of Irish freedom could only be won if he and his contemporaries were ready to die for it. On July 4th, 1943, as Netaji accepted the leadership of the Indian freedom movement in Singapore, he declared, "Hum zinda rahe ya mare wo koi baat nahi hai. Sahi baat ye hai, aham baat ye hai, Hindustan azad hoga." On October 21st, 1943, Netaji proclaimed the formation of the Azad Hind government. And in the final paragraph of the proclamation came the exhortation to the Indian people, which Shumantra read out to you in his welcome address. "The provisional government is entitled to and hereby claims," the proclamation said in an echo of its Irish predecessor, "the allegiance of every Indian. It guarantees religious liberty as well as equal rights and equal opportunities to its citizens. It declares its firm resolve to pursue the happiness and prosperity of the whole nation equally and transcending all the differences cunningly fostered by an alien government in the past." It is our tragedy that it's no longer an alien government that fosters such divisiveness. As head of state of Azad Hind, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose visited Japan, China, and the Philippines in November 1943, where he paid tribute to Jose Rizal, the pioneering Filipino martyr for Asian freedom. One beautiful day in November 1943, an eyewitness recounted, Bose went to Luneta Park on Manila Beach to present a wreath at the famous statue of Jose Rizal, who had been executed by the Spanish in the late 19th century. He gazed silently at the statue of Rizal for several long, tense minutes as the flag of Azad Hind, adorned with the charkha, fluttered in the morning breeze, and the flowers presented by Bose at the feet of the big statue made the whole scene extremely colorful. And then, of course, Jose Laurel, president of the Philippines, welcomed Netaji as the leader of 350 million Indians. In a lengthy interview given to my parents, Shishir Kumar Bose and Krishna Bose and me in March 1976, Netaji's close associate Abid Hassan had described the vigorous discussion led by Netaji in Berlin to select India's national anthem. Netaji had already chosen Jai Hind as India's national greeting or salutation. Three wonderful shortlisted songs were Bankim's Bande Mataram, Iqbal's Sare Jahan Se Acha, and Rabindranath's Jana Gana Mana. Netaji's verdict was in favor of Jana Gana Mana. An orchestration was done and played with great gusto by the Hamburg Radio Orchestra as India's national anthem in Netaji's presence for the first time on September 11th, 1942. On the eve of the proclamation of the Azad Hind government, Netaji, Abid Hassan, and the lyricist Mumtaz Hussain produced a Hindustani version of Jana Gana Mana based on 3 of the 5 stanzas of Tagore's song. The talented Ayana Orchestra, conducted by Ram Singh, wrote a score following Vinindranath Tagore's tune, but with subtle variations. Subha Sukha Chainaki, the Hindustani rendering of Tagore's Jana Gana Mana, was sung as the Azad Hind anthem as Netaji proclaimed India's freedom on 21st October 1943. Once I supplied the notation of Subha Sukha Chainaki, obtained by my father from Malaya for the archives of Netaji Research Bureau. T.M. Krishna and his students have been performing this anthem with passion in musical concerts worldwide to thunderous applause. It is time now for us to hear that stirring anthem. Jai Hind.
सुख चैन की बरखा बरसे भारत भाग है जागा पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा चंचल सागर विंध्य हिमालय नीला जमुना गंगा तेरे नित गुण गाए तुझसे जीवन पाए सब तन पाए आशा सूरज बन कर जग पर चमके भारत नाम सुभागा सूरज बन कर जग पर चमके भारत नाम सुभागा जय हो जय हो जय हो जय 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 हो भारत नाम सुभागा सबके दिल में प्रेम भाषाएं तेरी मीठी बानी हर सूबे के रहने वाले हर मजहब के प्राणी सभी तो फर्क मिटा के सब में तेरी आके बूंदे प्रेम की माला सूरज बन कर जग पर चमके भारत नाम सुभागा जय हो जय हो जय हो जय 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 हो भारत नाम सुभागा सुबह सवेरे पंख बखेरु तेरे ही गुण गाए बस भरी भरपूर हवाएं जीवन में रुत लाए सैनिक हिंद पुकारे जय आज़ाद हिंद के नारे प्यारा देश हमारा सूरज बन कर जग पर चमके भारत नाम सुभागा जय हो जय हो जय हो जय 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 हो भारत नाम सुभागा
जय हिंद।
We were supposed to have Professor Gayatri Chakravorty Spivak with us here today, hence the one empty chair. She suffered a family bereavement yesterday, and she lost a close relative. That's why she's not here with us today. The Netaji Birthday Assembly always concludes with a cultural performance. And today, we have invited a troupe of 16 artists of the Purulia Chhau dance tradition to perform at Netaji Bhawan. They will very shortly, in 2 or 3 minutes, take over the stage and perform Purulia Chhau dance for about 45 minutes. In the evening, I should remind you, we have 2 documentary screenings here in the Netaji Pavilion. Both are absolutely riveting documentaries. The first is called Rebels Against the Raj, India during World War II. It's a 50-minute documentary Sugata Bose made in 1986 with 3 focal themes: the Quit India movement, the Bengal famine, and the Azad Hind struggle and the Indian National Army. The other is a much more recent documentary. It was released in 2023, and it's called Netaji the Singapore Saga, Subhash Chandra Bose, An Indian Dawn in Singapore. It's 45 minutes long, and it focuses on the Singapore chapter. Singapore, of course, was the epicenter of the Azad Hind movement, the birthplace of the INA, and puts that Singapore chapter in wider context. Rebels Against the Raj will be screened from 6 to 6:50 p.m., and right after that, there is this 45-minute screening of this recent new documentary on Netaji, the INA, and the Singapore saga. So please do join us this evening. And in the meantime, do enjoy the Purulia Chhau performance by our invited artists from the Purulia district of West Bengal. Jai Hind. Please bear with us for just a few minutes while we clear the stage to make space for the performers. This is a 16-member troupe led by Biren Kalindi. Enjoy the performance.
আজকে যে ছৌ নৃত্যপালা আমরা পরিবেশন করব, ছৌ নৃত্যপালার নাম হলো অসুর সম্রাট মহিষাসুর বধ। শোনো শোনো সভাজ, করি আমি নিবেদন হে, নিবেদন সবার মাঝারে হে, আপনাদের আমন্ত্রণে হয়ে আনন্দিত মনে, আপনাদের আমন্ত্রণে হয়ে আনন্দিত মনে আমরা এইখানে করেছি আগমন হে, আমরা এইখানে করেছি আগমন হে। শুনো শুনো সর্বজন, কেবা মা কেশরী পরে দশ করে অস্ত্র ধরে নাচিছেন মা ঘোর সমরে রূপে জেনে চপলা মহেশ্বর প্রেম পাগলা রূপে জেনে চপলা মহেশ্বর প্রেমে পাগলা
So that's the end of the birthday assembly. But if you can, please join us this evening from 6 p.m. for the 2 documentary screenings. Rebels Against the Raj, India During World War II, from 6 p.m. to 6:50. And right after that, 45-minute new documentary on Netaji and the saga of Singapore, the birthplace of the Indian National Army and the epicenter of the movement. Jai Hind.